All right, look. Here's the parable itself. All right? And then after that, he explains the parable. All right. The sower went to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell by the road, was trampled underfoot, and birds ate it. That's category 1. Is that clear? Category 2. Other seed fell on rocky soil, and it does mean rocky soil, even though that's in italics. And as soon as it grew up, look at this, as soon as it grew up, that means the seed germinated. You got that? Here in category 1, the seed fell by the road. It didn't germinate. It was trampled and birds ate it. It stayed seed. It was dead seed. Okay, but this seed is not dead. It fell on rocky soil, and as soon as it grew up, in other words, the seed was born again. Get that? It had to grow. It grew. It wasn't dead seed. It grew. And as soon as it grew up, it withered away because it had no moisture. Moisture is, the Bible always talks about the water of the Word. So these people grow some, but as soon as it starts to grow, it dies because it has no moisture. Bear in mind that there are 7 kinds of death in the Bible. One of them is carnality. So growing means it starts out, but then it sins, it becomes carnal, and it doesn't get any Bible. It has no moisture, so it dies. That's in category 2. Category 3, other seed fell among thorns. And the thorns grew up. See, he's talking about growing up. Grew up with it and choked it out. So here in category 3, there's also a growing. But the growing gets choked out by the thorns. Got that? Okay, now here's category 4. Other seed fell into good soil. Okay, and grew up again. All 3 of these, this 4th category, like categories 2 and 3, depict a growing. So the seed germinated. Got that? Grew up and produced a crop. See, this one, you have to grow up first from a seed to a tree to produce a crop. A seed doesn't produce a crop. A seedling doesn't produce a crop. You have to become a tree before you can produce fruit. That means you have to be mature. Got that? And if you're mature, then you produce a crop 100 times as great. In other words, the fruit bearing is at the latter end of your spiritual life if you grow up. And as Christ was just saying here, some seed starts to grow but then withers. Okay, but it was still germinated seed. It's still saved. Other seed goes among thorns, and the thorns grew up with it. So it grows, sort of, and gets choked. But it's still a germinated seed. It's still saved. It was still born again because it could grow. It started. See? It started. Grew up with it. This seed, however, grows to maturity and produces a crop. Some trees take 10 years to grow. Some trees take 50 years to grow. And they all start out as seeds, and it depends on what kind of tree it is, how long it takes to grow. Everybody matures at a different pace. All right? So now the disciples who are, at that point, retarded, they're saved, but they're retarded. They don't understand what he's talking about. Okay, so now he starts to talk about it. See, look. The parable of the seed is the Word of God. And what's the first Word of God going into you? The gospel. So he says, verse 12, first category. Let me, so you can see the parable alongside the teaching that he gives, not me. This isn't brain out talking, this is the Bible talking. Those beside the road, that's category 1 up here. Those beside the road are those who have heard, but the devil comes and takes away the word from their heart. So, what does it say? So that they will not believe and be saved. So the first category up here are the ones who are not saved. Then he makes the distinction. Those on the rocky soil are those who, when they hear, receive the word with joy. That ties to James 1:21. Receive the word with joy. They got it. It's implanted. It germinates. But they have no firm root. They do believe for a while and in time of temptation fall away. They still received the word at first, but they don't have a firm root. That doesn't mean they lose their salvation. It means they didn't grow up. You can be a baby and die as a baby. You can be a spiritual baby and die as a baby, and 99% of the Christians are spiritual babies and die that way. That's why the rapture hasn't happened yet. I don't know how much clearer it can be than this. They received it, but they have no root. So they believe for a while but fall away. Yeah, Peter fell away. Is Peter not saved? Peter denied the Lord 3 times. Was he not saved when he said no? Duh! He was still saved. But he fell away. Paul fell away in Acts 22. He confesses how he fell away. You know, Moses fell away. He did second Meribah. David fell away. He did the thing with Bathsheba. Were they not saved? No. They fell away in time of temptation. That's what 1 John 1:9 is for. You name your sin to God and get back into fellowship. Okay, but what if you don't? Well, you're still saved. He's saying that right here. They received it. But they don't have a firm root. Well, it doesn't matter that they don't have a firm root. They received it. Okay? And then he goes into the third category. The seed among the thorns have heard, and they go on their way, and they're choked. But they, look at this, bring no fruit to maturity. Doesn't mean they haven't any. They don't bring it to maturity. They don't grow up. See? The thorns grew up with it. But it did grow. It started to grow. That means it was born again. A seed dies and something else is born. The seed of the word implants in you and you are born again. Baby. Okay, and then there's the fourth category, the seed in the good soil. These are the ones who have heard in an honest and good heart. That's not really a good translation, but I'm not going to exegete it here. And hold it fast and bear fruit with perseverance. He's talking about bearing fruit, maturation. A tree bears fruit. It has to become a tree first. You can be born and die a baby. You can be born and die an adolescent. You can be born and die mature. But you're not going to bear fruit until you're mature. And with perseverance isn't the right translation either. That really means endurance. Okay? Now, if this isn't clear to you after seeing this in English, I'm certainly not going to go through the Greek. Because this is common sense. Seeds germinate, but they might not mature. And they will not bear fruit until they mature. So stop selling the false gospel and driving Christians crazy, making them doubt their salvation. A person can be born again and have no fruit because he's still a seed. How idiotic the people are who say, oh, you have to bear fruit to prove you're saved. Seeds can't bear fruit. Only trees can. And the people telling you that you have to show evidence of your salvation as fruit bearing by their legalistic garbage definition anyhow. People telling you that, just walk away from them. 2 John 9. Okay? End of story.